All right, welcome everybody to the Twisted Pair. I'm Graybeard, and I'm running solo tonight as the famous Ash Red is out due to family emergencies. We all wish her well and sending her our warm wishes and our prayers. So keep her and her family in your thoughts and prayers for us, please, because she's a big part of our family here. And I am so honored to have Coach EB from the owner of Blow and Smoke Cigar Lounge on with us tonight. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm living a blessed life, so I can't complain.
I hear that. And I hear that. Same here.
When we met the first time at Underground, and just seeing your dynamics, your dynamic personality there as Easy Ash. It was, the patio party.
Right.
And I knew I wanted to, yep. I knew I wanted to come see your lounge and was honored when Cigar King invited me on as one of the guest hosts for the panel and got to see your lounge. And when I asked you if you wanted to come on the show, I want to say I was impressed with how quick you followed up with me. You followed up with me before I even had a chance to sit down, turn around, and follow up with you on this.
Right. I don't drop the ball. I'm not dropping the ball.
No, I could tell that. I could tell that. So there's a lot that I want to go over with you because you just have so many facets and bring so much to the table. You're a retired WNBA player, coach, life coach, entrepreneur, and entrepreneur in the fact that you own your own cigar lounge,
right?
And you've also built a charity foundation as well,
right?
So we've got a lot to go over.
Okay.
But before we get into it, at our heart, this is all about cigars and whiskeys and the pairing. So what are you smoking tonight? What are you pairing?
So I have chosen to start, and hopefully I won't burn through it too quickly. But the Perdomo 10th anniversary Maduro.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Very good cigar.
Yep. And then I'm going in a different direction. This actually was a gift from a fellow lounge owner, and for our 4-year anniversary last month. And it's actually a vodka, right? Which is I normally don't drink vodka, period, and definitely not with the cigar. But it's a hibiscus flavored vodka. And when I tell you it's good, yes, it tastes like it has some hint of bourbon or something in it.
Wow. So a hibiscus, so that's a sipping vodka.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm curious as to that. Is that infused?
Yeah, I would imagine because it has the hibiscus flavor, right? So
right.
This is the company Lockwood.
Yeah, Lockwood.
Okay. So I'm assuming that it is. It has the tint to it, the hibiscus color, but it is it's very good. And you have to be careful.
Oh man,
you have to be careful with it.
Oh yeah, especially when they have that sweeter profile. And sweeter profile and lower proof, and vodka is generally hitting about that 80 proof.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
it can sneak up on you so quick.
Yeah, this one is 60 proof, but it definitely will sneak up on you for sure.
Oh wow, it sounds delicious. It sounds like it would be a good pairing too.
What are you having?
So I have got the Crown Heads. This is the C Major. It's one of the new ones that's put out by Crown Heads, and I am pairing this tonight with a Blue Run. This is the Golden Straight Rye.
Okay.
And so I went with this one because the profile on this Crown Heads is a little bit different. than typical crown heads. We typically know crown heads as having, a little bit more spice or a little bit more creamy notes. They really love the jalapa, the habanos. They really love the San Andres. But this is, I believe, this is a Sumatra wrapper. It's either Sumatra or Connecticut broadleaf, and I'm getting a lot more earthy tones to it. And so a bit more floral, a little bit more earthy notes with it. And so I'm really looking for something that's going to maybe bring out a little bit of spice in the back end and possibly bring out some of the floral and sweet notes. So that's why I went with the rum. The rye.
The rye, right.
Yeah. Plus, I just love a good rye.
There you go. Who doesn't?
I'm telling you, it's got to be good. So, I want to get in. I want to get in and talk about your basketball career first, because
Okay.
I'm a basketball lover.
Okay.
I never played, for any, I played pickup, I played intramural ball, never played for any school, but played, all my life growing up until my knees went out on me. So, one, it's exciting that you get to talk with you having played professionally. I want to hear from you on what that was like for you, playing for a big college, Texas, and then getting drafted, that whole experience. Let us live vicariously through that experience of you.
It seemed like another lifetime ago. But the experience was fun, but it was a lot of work. It was my job, so whereas when you go play pickup, it's like, hey, I want to get a workout in, get some exercise, meet some people. It has a larger percentage of it is fun. But once it becomes your job, we're talking about, possibly getting cut. If you're playing overseas, having to negotiate a contract every year and going back and forth on money, and then finally agreeing and having to work for the person that you've been a month in negotiations with, it's a job.
Man.
being able to, I would say, being able to compartmentalize and separate the business from the on the court. I think that was the hardest part. But overall, good career, great career. That just seems like so long ago, and it was not that long ago.
So I'm trying to picture the anxiety, because those of us who are sports lovers, and we hear about this all the time in professional sports, from NBA, hockey, baseball, football, etc. What are those levels of anxiety of what you were talking about on, possibly getting cut, getting traded to a new team, having to pick up your family and just go?
Right. So nothing is really guaranteed. I think that even though you may say, like, as a rookie, when you're drafted, normally that contract you sign is a 3-year deal, but it doesn't mean 3 years guaranteed, right? The 3 years, more so on their end, means that what you signed, you're locked into this money for 3 years. So your money is not going to change, but you may change. We may change.
Wow.
Money. So it's very one-sided. But I've seen a lot of extremes on the W side, because I played in the WNBA and then internationally. But on the W side, I think one of the most extreme examples was playing against an opponent. I will not, reveal what team it was, because you can go back and backtrack the time and figure out who was the GM. But there was a game, and so that team traveled to Detroit and played against us. And during that game, it fell during a time period where they had to, kind of delete some players, cut some players, but they were going through roster cuts. So you had to go down from maybe 15 players to 12 players. So they sent 3 players home in the middle of the trip. So they were scheduled to go from Detroit to another city to play a game, and they were like, "Hey, you got to go home." So their ticket, their flight ticket, their plane ticket was from Detroit home, not back to where they were based. So not back to their hometown to get their belongings, but it was from Detroit home.
Wow. I can't even imagine because, as you know from what you had talked, I've been in IT for 30 years. And I've been a contractor or a consultant for a big part of that time. And I just know my levels of anxiety when a contract is coming up to end. And I mean, every single time, I've got like my recruiters, my agents, as I call them, who are looking out for me as my contract is coming to end. But my nerves are just on end, especially when I was married and, my kids were growing up.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine when you finish the game. It's like, okay, well, it's been nice playing with you, but you're not going on.
Seriously. So those players, and you hear about it because they're coming out crying. You're like, what's going on? Those players left the court to get back to their locker to see their plane ticket on their chair.
That's like a Dear John letter. Seriously, they get back to the locker room and their ticket is on the chair. Yes. It's not even a conversation of, hey, we had a good run, but it's, oh my Lord. Yeah, have mercy.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Yes, exactly. Did you have fun? What was it? Was like a dream come true for you, or did all of this kind of? Okay, good.
No, for sure, because when I arrived at college in 1996, there was no WNBA, right? And I didn't have on the women's side, you didn't have a lot of players in close proximity, or you could touch, or maybe went to university that talked about playing overseas. Some did, but that was years prior. They didn't really talk about overseas. So it's like, okay, what's next? If this kind of pans out for me, and all of a sudden I get good at this thing, then what's next? Is it just 4 years and done? So for me, my focus kind of shifted. I went into college with the goal of just getting a college degree. Because that was huge for my family. I'm actually the first person in my family to go and graduate from college.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So that was the goal. That was the dream. And then after freshman year, summer of 1997, was when the WNBA was born. And so from then it was like, okay, this could be a thing. This could be a thing. And so that was the next goal. To get the attention of those GMs and those head coaches and to play on that level, all the while not realizing, well, that's just 4 months of the year, so you're going to have to go overseas anyway for the other 7-8 months.
Wow. And I noticed that you also played for some international teams as well.
Right. So that's what we did for those 7-8 months.
Okay, so that's what for 7-8 months during the off season, what I'm assuming?
Yeah, what's considered the off season for the W, yes. But for me, there is no off season, right? Because I'm going from season to season.
That's got to be hard on the body. Because a lot of people will say that basketball is not a competition. It's not a physical sport. Like football is or hockey is. But having played and blowing out both my knees, I can tell you right off the bat that it's a very physical sport. You're constantly moving. Bodies are clashing. Playing year round at that level, what was that like on your body?
Well, it's tough because you don't get to recover, right? So you're on for 3-4 months. Maybe there were times where I would have 4 days at home. I would fly home, unpack, repack, and get right back on the plane, right back into preseason. So that's where, your diet comes into play. That's where your maintenance comes into play. You hear the stories of now LeBron James. Obviously, we didn't have LeBron James money. Really, who does? But LeBron James spending $1 million a year on his body. That's what he's talking about. It's the maintenance. It's the making sure you have the massage, making sure if you incorporate the yoga or the Pilates or whatever to keep your muscles elongated and strengthened and prepared to take that constant beating because it's rigorous.
That's fascinating. I mean, I love it. And seeing this that you were in a three-way tie for second place and rookie for the year, that had to be an honor.
Not really. Like, who
Really?
wants to be second?
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
No.
Maybe it's from the outsider. It's I'm looking at it as first or second. Yeah, I mean, hell yeah, everybody wants to get first. Get rookie of the year, but still, there's your level of game was recognized to be in the running for it.
That's not anything I ever say.
Really?
No, that's not something where if I'm forced to talk about credentials, right? First of all, I'm not a person that likes to talk about themselves or accolades. Hey, here's my resume. If you want to read about it, that's fine. But that's not something, if I do, if you need me to talk about some of my highest honors or the honors that I'm most proud of, that's not something that I would ever say.
I can see that, and you really need that kind of a drive to be able to accomplish what you've accomplished in life, and I get that 100%. And I mean, I was, we'll move on from this. Last thing I wanted to say about this is just that I got most of my information from your Wikipedia page,
okay.
and my kids. My kids and my ex-wife would always tease me about how I always go to look up something on Wikipedia. So the very first thing I did is like, okay, well, I need to do my research on Coach and find out what have some topics of conversation.
Well, that's just a good host.
Hey, well, thank you, I appreciate it. And what I love about a lot of athletes, not all of them, and a lot of athletes get a bad rap, but I see a lot of athletes that come back and try to give back to the community, and you are one as well. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, just briefly, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about your charity, the founder of Mentoring Athletes and Providing Dreams.
So that one was the original one. So I will talk about that. My current foundation is Edwina Brown Foundation. Okay. So that's current. The Mapped Out, Mentoring Athletes and Providing Dreams, that was something that was birthed in, I want to say, 07, 08-ish, maybe 06, somewhere around there. So it's essentially the same thing, right? It's the name change. So the reason why Mapped Out had to dissolve was because when I jumped into college coaching in 2011, there's minimal contact that you can have with what the foundation is about. There's minimal contact that you can have with the people, the young kids, the young people that I wanted to help, right? So it's illegal. Let's say against NCAA rules instead of illegal. It's against NCAA rules to give funding as a college coach, to give funding to a ninth grader, a seventh grader, whoever's benefiting from these funds, the scholarships, the clothes, shoes, whatever is being gifted. So to benefit from these gifts, it is against NCAA rules for a college coach to give that. At that time.
Okay.
So when I jumped into college coaching in 2011, I had to figure out who to pass it off to, who could continue to work. Could I possibly still have a say in it? But all of that stuff can kind of trail back to me and say, well, you contributed $10,000 here, and it looks like you also have a vote on the committee on who receives this scholarship, and you're trying to help this particular person so that they can come to your school. There are so many things that would somehow or another be against NCAA rules. So I could not find someone that was willing to take on a responsibility that would separate me completely. And so I dissolved, I deadened it, and then after a certain period of time, you can choose to say that you dissolve it. And so that's what happened. So when I stepped away from college coaching in 2017, took a year to vacation, and 2018 is when Blowing Smoke was birthed. And so at that time, I'm like, hey, there's some things that I'm passionate about, that are close to my heart, that I want to pick back up. And so then the foundation or the charity or the nonprofit was something that I wanted to restart. And at that time, I chose to just have it be by my name, so Lena Brown Foundation.
Love it, love it, and thank you. Thank you for giving back to the community and doing that, because I used to work with at-risk kids through the church years and years ago, and seeing our youth that they turn to anger because of whatever their situation is, whatever their circumstances is heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. And to have people like you, someone like yourself, who is giving back and who's helping and providing opportunities to grow, providing opportunities to learn, providing opportunities to get out of whatever situation that they may be in. And I just want to say, having been on one side of that, of working with our kids, our youth, thank you for that, because that hits me here. That hits me right here in the heart.
Right in the heart. Yeah, you're welcome.
Right there in the heart. All right, so let's get into what we're here to talk about. I mean, you brought up the great transition for me on this. Blowing Smoke Cigar Lounge, beautiful lounge.
Thank you.
Great environment. I absolutely loved walking in, and everybody there, from your employees to the patronage there, was very welcoming, and that just speaks highly of the cigar community and what you're building there. So what inspired you to start it?
I think that for me, it just happened to be opportunity. It kind of ties into my passion and the foundation. So it's a great segue. But there was someone that approached me. They needed some assistance in help in a lounge that they had that was struggling. That actually was closed down. They were locked out. And so at that time, I came on sort of like a mentor or an advisor on, here are the first 3 steps type of thing. These are the sub steps, so I came on as that kind of a teacher coach in helping them. And then it kind of morphed into, well, if you don't think this is a responsibility you can handle, I think this is something that I may want to pick up. So that conversation and realization happened about a year into my cigar journey. So my passion for cigars and understanding the culture and loving the environment was increasing all at the same time. And so that came into play like, hey, I believe if you're going to be great at something, whether you make money at it or if you just do it for fun, you need to be very passionate about it. So the passion was there. I just needed the knowledge. And so once Blowing Smoke was born, I had a lot to learn. I was green. I was only a year into smoking and had no idea. Yeah, had a year,
wow.
year and a half. Had no idea about, the brick and mortar business side, right? So I was able to do an online apparel company, in which I still have. It's still sitting idle, but I understand business aspect, marketing, promotion, all of that. But when you start talking about a brick and mortar and you have another home, another space, it's like an investment property that's not quite yours that you own unless you have a standalone. That was another 2 or 3 hurdles that I had to figure out. So I was learning, I was double learning, I was triple learning. I was drinking from a fire hose. So yeah.
Sometimes there's really no better way to learn. And I love that. I love that you did this being really young in cigars. I mean, even now, within 2022, we're talking. You've been smoking cigars for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're still a newbie. You're still a youngin.
Yeah.
I've been smoking
I'm okay with that.
cigars. And, there's nothing wrong with that. I've been smoking cigars for almost 32 years. It'll be 32 years in April, and there's still so much for everybody to learn.
I'm a growth mindset person anyway, so even if I were 10 years, God willing, 15, 20 years of being a cigar lounge owner, I'm still going to act like, that there's so much to learn out there, because learning is leveling, right? So learning is leveling up to the next step.
Well, we've heard many, really intelligent people, and one of the bases of wisdom. There's two bases of wisdom. One is the fear of the Lord. Fear of the Lord is the basis of wisdom, which I'm a firm believer in that. And then the other basis of wisdom is that recognizing and understanding that you don't know it all.
You don't know
and
everything.
That you can always learn.
Yeah.
And I'm 55 years old, and I'm still learning in everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. So, okay, so what was your first cigar?
Okay, my first cigar was
Java Red.
Java Red. That was my first cigar.
Wow.
So someone advised me to start. So when I went to a cigar lounge, I went to meet a friend, right? So I hadn't seen this gentleman in years. We go back now almost 25 years, but I hadn't seen him in years. And I landed in DFW, and he hit me up out of the blue, social media. Great job on that for keeping us alive and connected. Not so much alive, but keeping us connected. And so he was like, "Hey, would love to see you. I have a group that meets on Wednesdays at a cigar lounge." I was like, "Cigar lounge, okay." So I went and I met him, ended up meeting other people that are now my current customers, and some of them are my members. And so I was like, hey, what do I need to do? And first thing he said is, patronize, buy from the shop. So I knew that from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So went in the humidor, and the gentleman that was working, I said, hey, I'm new. I'm talking about brand spanking new. Help me with something. So he took me to the flavor section and pointed me to a Java Red. I said, I'm gonna trust you. There were other Javas, so talked about the latte, right? You know that, but at that time, it's like, okay, what would I like to taste, right? Because you're really trying to do it for the taste in general. Once you really understand about the leaves, it is all about taste. But then as a new smoker, it's like, give me some flavor, give me something Swedish. And what do you want to taste? He's like, you want to taste mint? I'm like, no. You want to taste latte? No. So Java Red. Yeah.
So, I can honestly say I've never smoked a Java. I've never smoked an acid, but I'm very familiar with them. And
okay.
I've got, I'll be honest, I've got nothing against it. If anybody wants to smoke one of those, But I love what you said. That it's all about the taste. It's all about the flavor.
It is.
And that's something that a lot of people really don't understand and don't get, because we hear a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure you, as being a cigar lounge owner, get people coming in, or I want a full body, or I want a medium body, or I want a strong cigar, or I want a. And every time I hear somebody say that, I'm immediately translating how that's going to come across in flavor profile, and then I'll ask them, if I'm helping out, in the humidor, someone recognizes me or something, I'm asking them, okay, so what have you had to eat? What are you drinking? And different stuff like that. But people don't realize that strength in a cigar is the acidity levels and nicotine levels, and as a cigar ages, those go down. Body of us.
Well, no, I agree. This is game. You're teaching game. Those questions, they used to be funny to me. and I'm gonna clean the word up. It used to be funny to me because it's like, what they know? They talking about. They come in like, oh, I want this, this, this. Especially as a female, as a woman lounge owner, I have a different. There's layers to this, right? So they come in sometimes with a disrespectful tone, right? So they use these different words or things that they've heard, thinking perhaps I don't know what I'm talking about. So when I hear that, my initial response is to ask them a question back.
Yep.
So, okay. So I want a strong cigar. Okay. What do you mean when you say strong? Are we talking you want spice? You want a lot of smoke? Do you want strength like for the duration of the cigar? Do you want initial strength in the first third? Like, what do you break it down, and why do you want a strong cigar? My buddies, this, and this, and my buddies. Like, okay.
All right. and they always reveal themselves so quick when they come in. Even going into a lounge, I went into a lounge, and I'm not going to mention the lounge. I'm not going to mention the name.
Right.
And I'm talking with a group of people, and I'm at a cut and light. And the cigar manufacturer of the cut and light, plus the rep, both know me.
Okay.
Both know me. Know who Graybeard is.
Okay.
And we're talking about this very thing. And I mentioned it's like I want to try to get us away from talking about cigars and describing cigars as strength and body, and start talking about cigars about flavor and boldness and intensity of that flavor, and then the types of flavor that you'll get into. But more of okay, this is a strong full body cigar with really intense flavors. And then you get into the description of what those types of flavors are. Well, it's one of the guys that actually works at the Cigar Lounge looks at me and goes, "That won't go over at all." And I was like, "Really? You don't think so?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't think so. I've been smoking cigars for 20 years. I've been in this industry for a long time. I know what I'm talking about." And I just replied back. I was like, okay, well, thank you. And I'm just sitting there thinking inside my mind, well, congratulations. Good on you. You want a pat on the back for that, buddy? Now, granted, I didn't say any of that, but that's kind of where I was thinking, on that.
Everyone just talk now decades in newbie, but this habit or hobby or living. The more you experience, the more you enjoy, the more you're around different people, and you hear about their experiences and what their taste is. And they had definitely open and I don't go back and
So what's coming down the line for blowing smoke? Let's tell people about blowing smoke. We know how you got started on it, why you got started, and you're passionate about it. Tell people about your lounge.
We so hard about location too. Not two simultaneous. This is our second. So actually over. So it's a pretty good size, very open space. Uh, we have cigars are number one. We sell, so we are bottom. We have membership, so they have room we can duck into. And that's our second offering. We like to do different events. We want to keep the community engaged. We want to keep the community excited. So whether it's a night, we have one revolving event every week, and that is Karaoke Tuesday. Why a Tuesday? Tuesday was our lowest revenue night in Duncanville, in our first location, which was in Duncanville. That was our lowest revenue night, and so we had to figure out what to do with that night, because that night was pulling our bottom line down, like it's pulling our numbers down. So my partner, he has a musical background. He's a DJ. He does different gigs throughout the city during the week, and he thought about karaoke. I actually gave him some resistance at first, and then once we started doing that, it became a big hit. So once we transitioned here to Lancaster, that was something we knew we had to keep. So that's our only revolving event. We do try to do at least one other event per month. And if you own a lounge or you're in the event space, throwing these events is a lot of work. So it's a lot of work by itself besides running a business, right? Running a company. So we do try to do at least one other event in that month. For this particular month, December, we actually have 2 events. So we'll do our Tuesday karaoke. And then on December the 16th, we're going to do an ugly sweater Christmas party. Yep. So that's going to be our Christmas party for this year. So it's ugly sweater and contest. So we love to give back and give out. I think that's just close to my heart, as we talked about with my foundation or anything that I've done, just trying to figure out me, assisting or helping people, mentoring, advising. So we love to give back. So we give out raffles every Tuesday. We're going to give 2 to 3 prizes. So we're going to do a contest with this ugly, and we're going to give some stuff out, some cool stuff. So we'll give that out. And then our second event will be New Year's Eve. So we opted not to close. Yeah, I know that some companies or businesses or cigar shops close on New Year's Eve or whatever, but we're going to go ahead and use that date and have a little party. And, for some people that want to bring it in a safe space, they want to get out of their house. They don't necessarily want to go downtown or be inside of Dallas with all the chaos and traffic. So we'll have a band for that night, and smoke some cigars.
Yes, ma'am. So for those who are just tuning in or going to be tuning in just a little bit, after we've done with this broadcast, watching later, I want to call out where you guys are, because you guys are really in. I think it's in a great location, because you're south of Dallas. You're off of 45 or
35.
You're off of 35 south of Dallas. Not really nice location. Easy to get to right off of the highway in Lancaster. And so I love that you stated that, for something like that, if you want to get away, or you're coming into Dallas and you want a good cigar, you're in that area. You don't have to come up into Dallas City proper to find a good lounge. We've got a lot of good lounges that are really down in your area, from Lancaster over into Cedar Hill and then coming over into Grand Prairie. So I was really pleased with how easy it is to get to.
Yeah, it's I was reading to the side here where it says my mic is giving feedback. Hopefully it's clearing up there.
Yeah, it's great. I kind of missed. I thought it might have been my headset, so I went to took my headset off, and then it continued on. That's when I asked the group, but it seems to be cleared up. But I personally have missed a little bit about what you're talking about the lounge. So if I ask a question of what you've already answered, please forgive me.
Okay, no worries.
I wasn't paying attention.
We'll work through it. We will work through it. So yes, we are located off of I-35. If you are headed southbound, either southbound or northbound, it is the Pleasant Run exit,
Mm-hmm.
and we are on the northbound service road. Okay, so if you're headed south, Pleasant Run, loop around, right? If you're heading into Dallas, then we're on that northbound service road. So we're right off the highway. You cannot miss us. We're in the same building as the Dickies. So yeah, finding this location for us, I would say it was ideal because we wanted to be convenient. And I think we hit a lot of the traffic, the travelers that are traveling towards Austin or Austin coming into Dallas. We're about 8 minutes from our old lounge, so we were able to retain some of
Oh,
our
that's good.
old customers, right? Old members. They were able to transition their membership. A lot of the customers and the clients that we call them that were frequenting our lounge in Duncanville, they lived in this area, this DeSoto, Cedar Hill area. So we are still in close proximity to that. And then coming out of Dallas, because we are right off of 35, it doesn't seem so bad. Whereas, from downtown, 14, 15 minutes, right? Getting into there, but it's out of downtown.
So yeah, we're starting to get that. It's like a clicking noise. It's like your mic is cutting in and out on
Okay.
it. Yeah, that is it's stopped there. Um, so let's talk about some of the challenges of opening a lounge. I mean, you guys are you and your lounge, you and your partner's lounge, still fairly young. I believe you just celebrated your 4-year anniversary.
Correct.
Okay, so still relatively young. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have come across on trying to open up a lounge, a cigar lounge, especially with all of the stigma that still sits around cigar smoking?
Whew, the challenges. That is a loaded question, Graybeard. That is a loaded question. I can speak directly to the Lancaster location, right? Because some of the hurdles and the hoops that we had to jump through in Duncanville uh, don't exist here, or they do exist. They're just times 10. It was hard moving into this space. The good thing is that Lancaster had the smoke ordinance was already in place, right? So we didn't have to move any rules or laws or change anything or wait on that. It was already allowed as long as our walls were sealed and we could prove, which was our final test, that we could retain the smoke in our space.
Okay.
Um, so that's the biggest thing, right? For a cigar shop, which is why I think that a tobacconist, at least for me, ideally and long game, or rather short long game, is to have your own standalone space, so you're not having that problem. Because if you do have that problem of smoke seeping into the next suite, um, then you're gonna have complaints from your tenant, right? And then they're gonna send those emails to the owner or send those emails to the city, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're gonna come out and they're gonna issue some fines, right? So the good thing about Lancaster, even though they gave us such a hard time before we opened the doors, I'm actually I was happy that they did it beforehand versus hassling us while we're in the space, which is what was happening in Duncanville.
Okay.
So I feel like the biggest mountain to climb, we did that before the doors opened. And I think that people that followed us and that was waiting on us to transition, that's why they were so antsy, because our open date was delayed. But it was because we were trying to check all the boxes. We had green tags, we had red tags from the city that we had to turn the green tags, and that's from from code and the inspector coming out, red tagging you if you don't pass this particular inspection. Green tag means go, red and green, we get that. So green means you can go now to the next step, and then you pass that one. And so there's all these different green tags that you have to pass. So I think that the biggest hurdles and the tallest mountain has already been climbed, is to retain that smoke. So that really was the hardest part. Hopefully they will leave us alone for the life of the lease, but we got to do our part.
Always got to do our part. And I think it's important understanding that you know, it's one thing when you're opening up a business and you're opening up a brick and mortar and, things that you got to do to the location, to the space, to give it the look and feel, the ambiance, what it is that you're wanting to try to achieve in your vision. But when you're opening up a cigar lounge, especially when it comes down to keeping the smoke inside your area, you've got to make, that's extra money that's coming out of your
It
pocket
is.
because you don't have a revenue yet. You're not generating income. You're not generating a revenue. So you've got that expense, that overhead, and you're also making changes to the building because you've got to get that proper airflow and ventilation to get that smoke out. Because even though we love smoking cigars, we will still only tolerate so much smoke in a lounge.
True, true. So if I can speak directly to that, that final test that I talk about, retaining that smoke in our space and not allowing it to go into the neighboring business, that final test we failed twice.
Wow.
Right? We thought it was good to go, but what do you know until you actually have smoke? Right? Do you actually have smoke? And so the inspector, and even though I was mad at him at the time because he was holding us up, right, from opening, he did his due diligence. So what he did was the neighboring space, which happened to be vacant, it's not now, but there's a space in between our business and the Dickies. That space was vacant. And so that space had to be open, which means there had to be communication with the owner of the building to make sure that that vacant space was open. And so we had to let off smoke bombs in our space.
Okay, smoke bombs.
So we let off smoke bombs in our space. He stayed in our space. We let him off. If he wasn't satisfied with the amount of smoke that he saw, he'd say, "Hey, can you put a bomb here? Can you add one there?" And then he would exit out the front door, walk next door into that space, and look to see what he saw. Right? He's looking around for smoke. But he did an extra step. Instead of just going into space and looking around, he actually had a ladder over there. He had a ladder. He removed the ceiling tiles. He got on the ladder into the ceiling with a flashlight.
Okay.
And if he saw any smoke in the ceiling, he gave us a red tag.
Red tag. Wow. What about the smell? Because we know the smoke is one thing, but then there's also people who complain about the smell of tobacco. Was there any checks for the aroma to make sure that the tobacco smell wasn't coming over?
No, there wasn't an aroma test. It was called a smoke test. So I think more so it was the visibility of the smoke, and I think that once on that third test, right? So we failed 2, and on the third try, once he didn't see anything, I think that maybe it was his assumption that he also would not smell anything.
Okay, I can see that.
Right. So that was the way that he set up the test, and by that time, because we are cigars, and there's not a lot of towns or cities that allow you to smoke inside. There was so many rules and precautionary measures, and I get it now, but at the time you just want to open your business, start making money, because every time we failed, we had to call the contractor back out, figure out what area the smoke was seeping through, and try to seal that area. When you seal, you might add, but there's sometimes when you have to take away to add. Right? So it looks like steps backwards when you take away to add. And it was so finite. I feel like the last test, and we ended up conducting our own test before we called for the building official to come out. We would do little sub tests like, hey, let off these smoke bombs. So you're running through money to buy these smoke bombs. First of all, we had to find the smoke bombs, right? So just Googling and trying to figure out, where do you find these smoke bombs? What types of smoke bombs? What does it have to do? So you spend money on that. And then, even though we couldn't see anything, it was like the smallest hole that he would see, and he would fail us.
Well, yeah, and here's another lesson in life. The success is not found in without having experienced failure in this, and all of that due diligence, as frustrating as that was for you guys, I only imagine that's going to just ensure that your longevity in that space is going to be there if you so desire on it.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I believe.
I find it so fascinating that you guys used smoke bombs, because I was about to, until you said that, I was going to say, what did you do? Invite 20 of your friends
to come smoke and fill up the room.
let's come in and smoke some cigars. We got to get tested here. No, you got to smoke that faster. You're taking too long between puffs. Get
right,
that smoke
right.
out.
Yeah, no smoke bombs. That's what it was. And for anyone, always wanting to educate, or if anyone that is looking to open their space and they're gonna have to go through the same test, I ended up finding these smoke bombs at Academy. They ended up being, I'm not a hiker or a mountaineer or any of that, but if those types of people would have a problem, that's something that they would have in their backpack to let off.
Right. Okay.
To
Yeah.
emit that smoke. And so that's what I was able to find, and that's what we used. So it's something to do with outdoor, the hiking. It's in the hiking section.
Mm-hmm.
The smoke bombs is in the hiking section. And the ones that I found, we opted to use a color bomb so that it would be clear to us, because sometimes if smoke is faint, right, it looks clear. It's gray, but it looks clear. You can't really see it if it's so faint. So
Yeah.
we opted to use a color bomb so that it would help us see it.
That's such a great tip. And we're here within Leaf and Grain, we're looking at wanting to eventually open up our own lounge at some point in time. Now, granted, ours will be focused on pairings, because that's what we do.
Right.
In all of my research, because I'm doing my research now, even though we're probably good 5 to 6 years or so away from being able to do this. I'm doing all my research now of what it takes to open up a cigar lounge, and these types of gems that you're giving us right now. I mean, you heard me say this, when we had the panel. These are mic drop moments,
right?
Because you don't find these in articles. You don't find these in the blogs. All you hear is you need this much capital. You need to find this kind of space, build out your business plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you and I both know, being entrepreneurs and having started, multiple businesses, that those are kind of the duh statements. Yeah, I get that. I want to know these nuances that I would not have thought about otherwise. This being right there with smoke bombs is one of them. So that's beautiful. I love it. You should write an article and publish it.
Yeah, that's actually I ended up, for my give back moment, starting a show myself. It's not something I want to just do every week or every month, but just to give these nuggets, just to help someone along the education side of cigar smoking and cigar etiquette and the culture of it. But then also helping someone along that may want to do this in the next 3, 5, 10 years. I call it the nuts and bolts, right? You might have the framework, and a lot of the framework you can observe, right? Okay, it's probably going to cost this much money. They have this many cigars. That's probably going to cost this. You need this much capital. But what are the nuts and the screws? What holds? And that's the part that people are not talking about.
Right.
Right. So to get open, you can have $300,000, $500,000, but if you don't know the types of questions or hurdles that you're going to have once you get in those meetings, city council, talking with the building official, making sure that you make those adjustments. If you're not capable of having those conversations, which is critiques, they're failures, right? We received red flags, and you can't make those adjustments sometimes overnight. My partner was in here with his brother in the middle of the night trying to patch that wall up. If the building official told us, hey, this area, it looks like it's coming from this area, they're working overnight trying to patch it up to make sure the next day before, I believe, 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., you have to put in that inspection so that day they can come out and re-inspect.
So you got, so on top of all of this, money out of you and your partner's pockets, money out of y'all's own pockets. You don't have a revenue coming in.
We're broke. Hey, no, I'm just kidding.
all of the red tape that you're having to go through with just all of the regulations, and you also got to make sure that the timing is right to get in order to get the inspector there, because the inspector's busy with other locations, and any loss of time on the waiting for the inspector to get there is additional.
Is another day. And then, obviously it's work days, right? It's business days. So if you miss that time on a Friday, you're now not waiting another day. You're waiting 3 days.
And that's money.
Time is money. Days are money. You have daily goals. So. Yeah.
All right. So you get all through this, and congratulations on doing all of this. And now it's time for the grand opening. What did that feel like to you? You've gone through all of this work. You've spent all of this money. You've gone through all of this time and all of the due diligence that you had to do. What did it feel like to be able to unlock those doors and welcome your first customer?
Like, I don't have kids, but I imagine maybe a new child, right? I often call this my baby, right? Because this was something that I drew on a piece of paper, a piece of print paper. I drew this location. I'm talking about the humidor, the size of it, everything. So it's like you have this gift. You're pregnant with this idea that is now coming to fruition. And once those doors are open, with your CO in hand, it's open legally by the city, approves you. It's like you birthed that child. And it's just like, come in, look at my baby. And everybody thinks their baby's cute, right? Everybody thinks their baby is the cutest baby. So it's like, come in and look at this. And then you realize, this child takes a lot of work. They take a lot more money when they're alive, when they're out of the womb. And all of these things as a new parent, so to speak, that you didn't realize you needed to pay for. And then you have to grow it up. They're changing shoes every so often. So for us, it's like we're changing cigars, we're adding cigars, we're restocking cigars. And there's a lot of similarities to the birthing. So this is a child.
Well, again, congratulations on that. I want to talk a little bit about the humidor. What was it like, having these initial conversations with the reps, with the different cigar manufacturers, bringing in their cigars into your lounge, and now that you've been established for a while, because I know moving from Duncanville to Lancaster, you had some of those relationships already set.
Correct.
What was it like? What kind of challenges did you have to go through? One, being a woman in the industry, because we all know that being a woman
is a whole other conversation.
It's a whole other conversation, and we've had that conversation a lot here on the show. My beautiful partner Ash Red, she's being on the social media side of it, she's experienced some challenges being a woman in the industry. But being an owner, when you review a cigar or you reach out to a rep, both sides, being new, being a woman, and then what is it that you look for when you go to add a new line or a new facing in your humidor?
Loaded question. Okay, let's try to unpack this. So first of all, I think what people should know is that our humidor in Duncanville, as it relates to the humidor now, was a third of the size.
Wow.
Okay. So this humidor is 3 times the size as what we had in Duncanville. So when you talk about size, not only in, when the contractor, the GC comes in, you have to build this humidor. It takes money, right? And in
Mm-hmm.
order to grow into this larger humidor, it takes money.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of what you've spent in the build out, we did a complete build out. The floors were naked and hard cement. It was cement with holes, and we did a complete build out. Okay, we installed walls, everything. So now we have to grow into this humidor. And so as it comes to your question, a lot of those relationships we had, and it's something that I spent all of my time in building in those first 2.5, 3 years in Duncanville. But now we're able to buy more if you have the money.
Yeah.
Right. So I initially tapped into those relationships. I grew the offerings in their catalog. Okay. Whereas I was only able to have 2 or 3 facings, now with a company like Definition Cigars, or obviously Drew Estate, being a reputable brand, we're now 7, 8, 9, 10 across with those companies, right? Because we have all this real estate that we have to fill. Don't forget the money. You have to make the money in order to flip it, to grow it. I think going to shows like TPE, which is coming up in February, going to shows like PCA, that's really where you rub elbows and you build. This business is all about relationships. I actually think life is all about relationships, right? So that's where you build those relationships. That's why I believe it is imperative for a tobacconist to be at those shops, especially a new tobacconist, right? Someone that's new to the game, that needs game, that's trying to figure out the game. You have to be in these places where these companies are, so that you can do business. And a lot of times when they put that face to the name that maybe they're reading on an email, maybe someone has mentioned, and they see your personality, they see what type of person you are, you get to hang out with them, outside the trade show floor, then they're thinking, okay, this is someone that I would want to have my brand in their lounge, because, either our beliefs or personalities, something meshed. Just like you and I, we've met, 2 times in the last 2 months, maybe. And you're like, you need to be on the show.
Yep.
So it happens just like that with cigars. We do get a lot of companies that walk in our building, not just local companies that are branching out and growing and showing up in the cigar game, but we get people that are passing through. We get people that have intentionally flown into Dallas that want to, walk the grounds of DFW and try to find shops to put their cigars in. And so a lot of them drop samples off. I do smoke through the samples. I give my staff some. If there's multiple, that's why I think, and that's a whole nother sidebar, if you are wanting to have your cigar, let's say there's a cigar company, and they want to have the cigar in a particular lounge, do not walk in that shop with 1 or 2 samples.
No, absolutely not.
Do not do it. Do not do it. And people do that. And with me, that's pretty much going to nix you off top. Now, it might be good, but like there was one, I remember exactly, I won't say the name of the company, but I wasn't here. My partner was here. They dropped off samples with him. They dropped off the same cigar times 2. So I smoked it. It actually was legit. I was like, okay. They left their card. I called them. And on that phone call, I asked him, I said, how many SKUs do you have in your catalog? How many cigars do you have? He told me 14, but he dropped 1 off with me. Needless to say, that's not a company I brought in.
No, and I can imagine not, because, a cigar lounge, we seem to forget that it's still a retail shop. And you have those spaces, and you have those shelf spaces. And if there's an empty space on that shelf, then that means you're not making money for that particular space. And that particular
real estate
is real estate.
It's real estate.
You need to make a certain amount of money
for that spot.
That amount of real estate. So when a rep comes in and says, "Oh yeah, I've got 14 SKUs, but I've only brought in 1."
Like, okay.
I mean, I've got leaf and grain. We've got 1 SKU right now, and we're trying to build up. Now we'll never be a cigar company like our brother Neo in DC, with Definition Cigars, or with
Yep,
really
I
not
got
with
you.
the big ones like Drew Estate.
Right.
That's not our part of our business plan. Our cigars is because we enjoy it and we want to share, and we can build a side revenue stream up through it. But I can absolutely understand that, that frustration with that. Now
Yeah.
let's get to the meat of it, because people really need to know. Especially I really want all the men to know, and for us to understand what we need to do on our side of things to change in the culture and to change in the industry to make things easier for women in this. What kind of challenges did you have with these cigar reps when you're coming in as a woman and saying, I want to put your cigars in my shop? What were you taken seriously? What were some of those challenges that you hit on that?
Yeah. So Graybeard, if I can speak frankly and be transparent.
Please do. Please do.
Okay. Okay. So the truth of the matter is, I am a double minority in this business.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I not only get the woman female hurdle, but I also have the African American, the black hurdle that I have to jump. And I will say that I have had more pushback or more hurdles in the African American lane than I have in the female lane.
Really?
Yes.
Now that surprises me, honestly, because of how prominent cigar smokers are within that side of the culture
You're
of
right.
it.
You're right.
Within
You're right.
culture.
You're right. So I tell people there's only there's two growing demographics in cigars, right? A lot of it is stagnant. It is growing, but I'm talking about a noticeable growth,
Okay.
right, on the scale, the spectrum. And that is females and African Americans. So
Mm-hmm.
you are right, because it is some of it is trendy. It's trending upward pretty quickly. So you would think that I wouldn't get the pushback. But what we're talking about is, as a tobacconist, right? I have to do business not only with those that are smoking, which is what's trending, but also the manufacturers. And the manufacturer and the owners, I'm saying I've gotten the pushback at that level because I deal with it from all sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have gotten pushback as I'm growing a business, right? If I don't have cigars, I can't sell cigars. So as I'm growing that so that we can increase our revenue, so that we can grow as a company, that's what I'm saying. That lane has been the hardest. I will give you a story. I'm going to make it brief, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the company.
No.
Okay. So it just so happened, there was a particular cigar that I was buying from a wholesaler. It was going so fast and it was doing well in Duncanville. I ended up growing to 3 or 4 or 5 different SKUs, so 5 facings of that company. So someone gave me the game of going direct. That's when I understood TPE, PCA. You're going direct. You could probably cut between $5 and $15 per box off of your price. I know numbers very well. So I started doing the math. I'm like, man, okay, direct is the way to go. So whenever I travel to these trade shows, I have notes in my phone, and there's a list of companies that I want to hit. Obviously, I have a budget, and those list of companies that I want to open accounts, direct accounts. So I walk in the booth of this particular company because I want to go direct with them. And they ask, they look at your badge, and on your badge, you have your name bolded, and then under it, your full name, and then the name of your shop. So they're looking at your badge to see where you're from. They're like, oh, okay. So Lancaster, at the time, Duncanville, is that Dallas? So, yeah, okay, well, let me call your rep over, someone that covers that territory. So they called over the territory person, and we started talking. They started walking me around the booth saying this, this, and this. I received the price sheet. I'm looking at the price. I obviously know the cost of these cigars from where I'm buying my wholesalers. I'm like, wow,
Right.
okay, this is the way we need to go. And so I'm like, yes, we want to open an account. One of them walks to the back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what is going on? Right? So one walks to the back, they come back, and I'm like, is everything okay? They're like, oh yeah, we wanted to make sure that we could open your account. I had to get the approval because of where you're located. Okay, so right now there's a geography problem, right? So it has nothing to do with female or Black, African American, Black.
Right.
So we had to make sure. I didn't know that there were some territory, geography, close proximity issues. I didn't know that was. I learned at that time that there's agreements, there's game behind the game, right? Some companies have agreements with certain shops that they won't do business with other shops in close proximity. So I'm like, okay, so I'm learning something as I'm listening. So I'm like, okay, they approved us. I said, all right, this is what we're thinking we want to order. I'm going to get back home and I'm going to call in and submit my order. Okay. I get back home within 48 hours. I called, no answer. Call, no answer. I text, no response. I email. I did my due diligence because I know how much people love that particular cigar company. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Something is not right. I waited another year. The next trade show, I went right back in that booth. I talked to a different person. Yeah, there's no issue opening your account, putting in an order. I'm like, there's no issue, but there is an issue. Like, what is the issue? Okay, now we can make all kinds of assumptions. I was able to order right then on the spot with no problems, but till this day, they never followed up with me. But when I spoke to some of the higher ups, I immediately was able to do business. Now, I don't know what problem that could be. They have no problem doing business with the shop that was a few miles away. I don't know. We can assume, we could say that really wasn't the hurdle. But those different types of things, that happens all the time.
Well, and you can't help but immediately make those assumptions because that's natural human instincts to automatically go, okay, is it, am I not getting the follow through? Would you be giving me the question would be, would you be giving me the follow through if I was a man or if my skin color was different? Those type of natural assumptions come into play, and who knows?
Yeah, you don't know. I ended up having another comrade or a fellow tobacconist in the city that I often move around to different shops and I smoke and I patronize because I'm going to meet people, right? Because I believe in relationships. I'm going to look at their business. What are they doing that I can implement? I'm coming from, a pupil, someone that wants to learn. And so I sit down with a particular owner, and one of his questions to me, he was like, are you having any problems with anyone in the industry? And I mean, that's a wise question from someone that understands what's going on.
Oh yeah.
And I said, interesting you asked. And I said, yeah, I've had a few problems. What companies? I was like, okay, I'm not able to escape this one. What? He asked directly, what companies? And so I named a few. He said, nope. He picks his phone up. He makes 6 calls in my face. 6 calls, speaks directly to it. They pick right up. Now I know what his shop is doing. He's $1 million shop, easy, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably picking up his, make a little bit more money, spend some more money with him, maybe. But he calls and he's like, hey, I'm sitting here with the owner of Lone Smoke Cigar Lounge. Very good person. She's not a hobbyist. She's serious about the leaf. She knows what she's talking about. And she's saying she's having some hard. When I tell you within 48 hours, 3 or 4 of those companies reached out to me directly.
It's good to have friends. Yeah. I've told this story a number of times on the show, but this kind of speaks to what we're talking about. You know my partner Ashfred.
Yes.
She's very well known within the industry. From a social media profile, her level of knowledge with cigars is pretty well known. She and I, local lounge in the DFW area. Again, like you, I'm not gonna name the lounge.
Mm-hmm.
We walk into the humidor, and the tobacconist is there, and I use that word very lightly. Use that word very
You
lightly
have to.
in this particular case, very lightly. He immediately comes up to me and says, "Can I help you find anything?" And I
To
said, "No."
you.
To me,
Both of you guys are in the humidor.
we're together. I mean, we're
Okay.
standing side by side at this particular time. So no, I'm just looking. So he kind of backs off a little bit. Then he comes up to her and says, "Can I recommend one of these cigars over here to you?" And it happened to be an infused cigar. So he automatically made the assumption that because she's a woman, that she wants to smoke something that's flavored,
Yeah.
which people. I mean, anybody who watches this later or is on now, stop making that assumption. Stop it right now.
Facts. Stop it right now.
Stop it right now. Men,
Yeah.
stop it. You yourself, Wed, so many other amazing women that I know, and their knowledge, y'all's knowledge on cigars, and knowing what you like and what you don't like, and knowing what your patronage as an owner would like and what they wouldn't like based upon. Stop making assumptions.
Yeah. Stop it right now.
It's ridiculous, and that kind of takes me into something that we talked about on the panel, where we get where there's two sides to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
There's the cigar smoker, as opposed to you remember this conversation, the cigar smoker as opposed to the person who smokes cigars.
Right.
So I'm talking about the cigar smoker. There's that culture there, and there's the culture of the cigar smoker who owns a lounge.
Right.
How important is it in the culture as, and I want to bring back that word, that tobacconist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How important is it for your staff, your tobacconist, your staff, and as an owner to really get into knowledge of cigars, types of leaves, types of blends, types of profiles, to be able to talk to the cigar smoker, and then be able to take the person someone who smokes cigars into that level of the cigar smoker.
Okay. So if you will allow me, Graybeard, before I answer that and talk about my staff, I do want to add one piece of information that I left out of my story, where it kind of was left as an assumption, but one of the reasons why I thought that it was more on the hurdle of the color of my skin was because when I asked the gentleman, where did he go? What happened? He told me that the company had a brotherhood agreement with the shop that was in close proximity of my lounge. They had a brotherhood agreement, and so he had to get the approval to make sure that he could open my account. So it was that phrase that twisted me up a little bit. It's shocking. I see your mouth. It is shocking, but I was actually told that. So let me now move forward.
I just want to say that twists me up.
Yeah.
That twists me up, and I'm thankful that you're not mentioning lounges. Not mentioning names. One because one that's now in the bygones, but that's messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up. So that's why I drew that conclusion because of that phrase that was said to me.
100%. I I can understand that 100%.
Yeah. So as far as the education of the staff, we learn from our experiences, right? And we try different things. You fail, you succeed. You fail more times than you succeed. So one of the things that the model was let's find someone that smokes cigars, that understands the culture and understands the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then because I was burned more times than not by those type of employees and staffers, I call them team. This is my team. This is, this is the team members. What I opted to do, I would rather hire someone that is green and teach them. So because I'm a coach, right? I come from the
Yep.
coaching. I come from the coaching space, coaching in sports, but then it transitioned to coaching in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is my gifting, then I believe I'm supposed to multiply, right? Be fruitful and multiply. So I can teach you. If I believe that you can be honest, right? You're not gonna steal from me, right? You're gonna work hard. You're gonna show up when you're supposed to be on the clock. When you're on schedule, you're gonna show up, and that you're willing to learn. I can teach you. So it is a constant teaching process with the staff, right? We meet every month with the staff, and at the end of every meeting agenda, we have a staff test. And that is my opportunity. Besides the day-to-day, we obviously are on group chat, so we talk pretty much every day about different things. I share
Mm-hmm.
different materials. We shoot the breeze like you do with a friend, but I also share different materials, whether it's leadership, whether it's motivation, whether it's cigar related. I mean, even just yesterday, I sent them, whereas maybe you think they know and you can't assume someone knows, I sent them the proper way to straight cut, guillotine cut a cigar, because I noticed that some of those cuts were too deep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so even though this cigar smoking is a preference, right? What you're drinking is a preference. What I'm drinking, what I'm smoking, it's all preference based. So if you may like your a cigar straight cut a little deeper, but that doesn't mean that the customer does. And we have had a lot of cigars returned or people not satisfied, not too many, but some. And so I don't want to lose that product. I don't want to lose that cigar. So let's cut it properly.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the teaching of your staff on a daily basis has been working for us, right? Versus someone that they know all about cigars. And the other thing is, when someone thinks they know everything, they don't want to learn. So then they're now looking at me like, what are you going to teach me? You just started smoking 5 years ago. So we have, we have fought through the weeds in those types of employees. I think that the three that my partner and I have now, and even my partner, and he'll tell you, he's still learning. I'm still learning, but he's really learning. Like, he's growing his palate. He started in the flavor lane like I did. He's now venturing into full bodies. There's some full bodies he's like, no. There's some he's like, I can do this one. And now he's understanding. It's not that it's full, that it's just super strong. It's the taste of this one. I like this taste versus that. It has that. So they're now understanding the complexities of this game. One of the things, the last test in our last month that I gave them was a little bit different. And I had them go in the humidor, pick a couple cigars that they felt like they could talk about, from the leaf to the filler, that they feel
Mm-hmm.
like they could sell. They could tell someone why they would enjoy it. They can fully talk about the cigar and sell the cigar. So they had to talk about both of the cigars that they picked off of the shelf. And then at the end, I said, you know what? Those are yours. Now, the B part is that you have to take it home and smoke it. And I want you to write a review. And so they had to write a review on these cigars. And every single one of them came back with, I wouldn't have gotten this out of the cigar if you didn't make us sit down and write a review on it. They would have just smoked it for leisure, enjoyment. They have something to smoke while they're on the clock. But now they're actually smoking it for the taste, for the understanding, for the expansion of their knowledge. And I think that it starts with the head, the leader, the boss, whatever word you want to use, in teaching your staff and just showing them how important it is for them to understand taste, flavor, what someone may be drinking. I sent them a guide of, from wines all the way up to ryes, of what type of cigar, mild, medium, full, would pair well. So we're all learning, but I think it is my responsibility to help them grow.
Absolutely. And I want to say, so that this is coming from another coach. So my job, I coach teams on how to improve their software development. Also a life coach as well. And I want to say a true sign of a leader, you just spoke right there, because as leaders, we see our success when everybody else around us is successful. Not based upon what we do, but based upon what they're able to accomplish, how they're able to grow. That's where we see our success. And their failures is not on them, it's on us, because that means that we did not provide them the tools that they needed to do, that they needed to use to become successful. Or we didn't recognize where they were struggling to become successful. And that's what a leader is. And so I love it. I would take my hat off, but it's too much work.
It's too much work.
Yeah,
no, Graybeard, there's two slogans, quotes, mantras, whatever you want to call it, that I kind of think of when you talk about your team. From the sport background, teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yep.
I think that, that's probably used elsewhere as well, but teamwork makes the dream work was huge. And I got into the life space, heard something that was said, I believe it. You don't
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of the clicking feedback on your mic right now. It's starting to clear up a little bit, but I got to 100%, and I want to take this down into a different direction, still within the education, but based on what you were talking about right there with the leap and really learning the profiles and learning the what they're going to pair with, and I think that's so important, and we don't see that. I've talked with a lot of different shop owners. And I've talked with a lot of different tobacconists throughout, in the industry. And you don't see a lot of that, where the tobacconists, they don't understand the difference between a Sumatra and a Habano. They don't understand the difference between a Criollo and a Corojo. They don't understand the difference, that they don't understand that a Maduro is not a leaf, that's a color. A Connecticut is not a leaf, that's a color, but there is a broadleaf and there's a shade, which are actually leaves. And that you'll get different types of flavor profiles from each of those. So I want to commend you and thank you, because this is what we focus on. This is what we do in Leaf and Grain. This is what we teach. We teach people to take their pairings to that level of understanding, that I can have a Sumatra from Indonesia, or I can have a Sumatra that's grown in Honduras or Nicaragua or Ecuador, and get completely different flavor profiles from each of those. So one, thank you for doing that. Two, talk a little bit about how, outside of just smoking the cigars, which is the most important, what other resources are you using to be able to teach your teams this? Because this is not something that we see on our side, on Leaf and Grain side, a lot of shops doing. They're saying smoke the cigar, but just understand it of, this is a full strength. I mean, this is a strong, or this is a full body.
Okay, so I'm hopefully I'm not messing things up. I know I'm having headset and mic problems. Can you still hear me?
All good right now. It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. For me, understanding that I still need to grow, I still have to learn. So further in my education of a cigar, currently I am in tobacconist youth, and just breaking down, the timeline and the birth of cigars and where it comes from. It takes you through different leaves And so anything that I'm learning, I share. Right, so I share. It's going to be implemented in our test. But as I grow, I believe they grow. Right, when I rise in my education or the familiarity of the cigar, and then a little bit on the liquor side, even though we don't have a bar, but we get a lot of people that come in and say, "I'm drinking this. What goes well with that?" So when I'm able to receive that information, then I can give it to them. But they also are responsible for continuing to learn themselves, right?
Yep.
Because they're learning on the job. As I learned on the job, they're getting questions that, they can't type it fast enough in the chat, and then might be an off day or out and about. It's like, hey, you've got to handle these questions, and sometimes you might drop the ball, and it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know. It's okay to say I don't know, but I do know that I drink this, and I like these cigars with that. And then going home and educating yourself.
Yep.
So I am still growing my knowledge. I'm showing that I'm growing it by enrolling in a further educational piece for cigars. And I don't think that ever stops. I think that going to other shops and sitting down with people like the Jay Davises, over at Blue Smoke, also
Yep.
the Flash, sitting down with Tim Davison, that's over in Mesquite. Those people that are further along in the game that have been for years and years, venturing out to Fort Worth and sitting down, with is it Chef or Doc? Because I mixed the two.
No, it's Chef.
It's Chef. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sitting down with Chef, and just getting some cigars and sitting down and hoping to catch him. You don't want to catch anybody on an off night because I mean you're not making money. But if you do, you can sit down and smoke one. If not, go by the register and talk and pick their brain. I've even been out. I had someone to tell me it was a compliment, but I needed to fully understand the compliment. But someone told me that we're the customer service of the South, and they said that industrial was the customer service of the North. And
Okay.
so I said, okay, that sounds like a compliment. But I hadn't been to industrial. So I was like, thank you. I thanked them for that, but I was like, I need to understand what they're saying. So I went to industrial, off day. This is homework, right?
Yeah.
You might think I'm out kicking it and hanging out. I am, but I'm working too. So I went in and I'm looking at their humidor and I'm like, okay, I can add this to my humidor. I want to implement that. And it just so happened I called the owner and he was so nice to come over and sit and talk to me through a cigar, gave me several cigars to try.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking questions. He's giving me game. I'm putting it in my notes, and then I'm implementing once I leave.
I hear you. I mean, even when I came to your lounge, and I was there to host a panel, I'm sitting there working. While I'm sitting down smoking a cigar, I'm sitting there working as well. I'm looking at your humidor. I'm observing what it is that you do. I was working when I was sitting when you and I were just having a conversation there inside the humidor and at the counter. So yeah, I get it. Every time I go to a lounge, I'm working as well. So 100% get it. And I love that, congratulations, good on you for getting into the Tobacconist University, and getting your CRT, and going down that path. I went down a different path. I went to the International Association of Cigar Sommeliers and kind of back around the cutting on it.
Right.
One of the tests that I had to pass on this is I had to submit 5 videos of me cutting a perfect cigar, not just the standard cigar, but I had to show perfect cuts on figurettos. So your torpedoes, your chisels, 5 different ones, and I had to show 5 videos of lighting a cigar for someone. Now I'm lighting a cigar for myself. I normally don't put it up to my mouth and do a hot light because of what that does to the flavor profile. But if I'm lighting a cigar for somebody, there's no way in the hell I'm going to put that cigar in my mouth. So I had to light it perfectly without it charring down the side and give it to them for them to be able to start smoking it without me putting the lighter up to their face on it.
Right. Wow. Well, my test is more. It's I think it's 100 questions. So I get to answer questions instead of a demonstration. But you are right. I mean, just understanding where, you may put the flame all the way into the foot of the cigar, and that's not the proper way. It is the proper way when you're toasting, but then once you give it to someone else, the flame is not supposed to touch the end, and we tend to just shove it in there and let's get it lit.
Oh, man. I teach people that I don't have another cigar with me, and I've already nubbed mine beyond what I can do. But I talk about it as in caressing. Take that flame, never go into it because you're just going to be burning those oils directly into it. And you're going to get a char that's coming down through the body of the cigar. So you take that flame and you just caress it. You toast those edges, get those edges nice and toasted, and then you toast the entire foot of the cigar and just take your time with it. It's almost like this is the foreplay part. This is the foreplay part of it. Come on, guys, you better know what I'm talking about here. If you don't go and ask your woman to teach you, because you gotta just lightly touch it, caress it, get it to where it's a nice white glow on it. Then you can take that lighter and put it down and start smoking your cigar and pick up those flavors immediately, rather than having to get through that char that because you overburned the foot of your cigar. So yeah, it's a lot of people, and I come back to, it's like what you said, cut your cigar the way you want to cut it. If you want to cut it deep and fight with the unraveling of the wrapper, that's on you. If you want to get a nice big flame going because that satisfies some kind of desire going, that's on you. But I'm not going to light it that way, and I'm not going to light it that way for you.
Right. It's photo opportunity. Get that nice flames, nice picture.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I appreciate you for coming on here with us. I appreciate everything about what you've talked about from sports. You're giving back to the community. You're coaching. Your approach on the business. I love all the gems that you have given us. I have learned something from you tonight, myself, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend the past hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes with us on here. Lots of great gems, people. Those of you who are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you come to Dallas-Fort Worth, make a point to come out and see EB at Blow and Smoke Lounge. It is an experience. It's a beautiful lounge. Nice members VIP section. I love how much sitting room that you have for the non-members, for the non-VIPs. I mean, it's a great. You feel comfortable. You feel at home. You feel like your family as soon as you walk through the door, and that comes back to you.
Thank you so much.
On building that environment.
Thank you. That was definitely the goal. We want people to feel like family, not guests. We get a lot of first timers to come in and they just feel at home and say they will be back, and that's music to our ears.
That is so important. A lot of companies, a lot of businesses don't realize this. It's easy to get new customers. It's easy to get new people in the door. It's a lot harder to get them to come back.
Exactly.
It's a lot harder to get them to come back. And you can have a beautiful facing. You can have some of the best facings in the world in your cigars and your humidor. But if you don't have that culture there, that family there of what brings us to a lounge, to want to sit down and smoke at a lounge, Doesn't matter what kind of facings you have, how good your prices are. We're not going to come back.
Right. Because one of the things that drew me in is the people, right? And the camaraderie and the feeling that I felt when I walked in a space. When you go in a space, whether a restaurant or whatnot, and you're like, I don't feel welcome. I don't feel like they really want my business. And you know right away it's a feeling. It's that intuition. It's that discernment, whatever you want to call it. So we want to make sure that we provide that to a customer. When they walk through that door, those first few steps, they're going to be greeted, whether it's the front door or the back door with our entry points. They're going to be greeted.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. I love it. Congratulations. Great job on what all you do. One final question that we always ask all of our guests. What's coming down the line for you 2023, 2024? What's on your roadmap? What's coming down?
2023. So I call it the Jordan year.
Okay.
That's the Jordan year. We've got to elevate, even if it's internally. There are small adjustments that we're going to make that people won't even notice. We're definitely going to continue with the growing of our humidor. We have a lot of space to grow into. We've added 2-tiered shelves to the middle of the humidor. So we have to continue to grow into that. I would love to add, we didn't do very many cut-and lights in 2022. We did a few, but I would like to have at least one each quarter to add at that event. We are going to welcome Dallas Cigar Week into our space. I think it's called Texas Cigar Week now. We're definitely going to welcome that into our space.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
we'll be there. Leaf and Grain is sponsoring Texas Cigar Week.
What'd you say?
Hey, we're sponsoring Texas Cigar Week. So
there you go. So we're definitely going to do that. First quarter, we always capitalize on whatever holiday is during that particular time. So we try to keep our events around those holidays. So we obviously have MLK coming. We have New Year's. So we'll do the Eve, MLK, Valentine's Day. We'll capitalize on those things. But just continuing on the mission. We are a year and 3 or 4 months into this space. So we are still learning what works in this space. It may not have worked, or it worked in Duncanville, didn't work here, or vice versa. So we are still in the learning stage of what works here in Lancaster. And so those are really the mission, is just to continue to go direct. I would love to go direct with at least 75-80% of our companies. We do not want to weed out our wholesalers. We do not want to weed out the locals that we do business with. It's very important for us to stay connected with that. But to continue to grow our humidor and, of course, sales, because that helps my pocket and my partner's pocket. We'd like to put some money in our pockets.
Oh, absolutely. I hear you on that one. With Leaf and Grain, we've been doing this for a year and a half now, and we're looking for that part to be coming our way as well. So where it's not just coming out of mine and my partner's pockets of.
Absolutely. If you don't mind me kind of plugging, I do a show, not as consistent as you guys. I'm not completely in the podcast space, but I do a show called Shop Talk. And so that's my service to the community as it comes to a tobacconist and just providing more education. So I want to grow that platform, which we provide on YouTube, and just continuing to teach our community about the leaf.
Absolutely, 100%. Let us know how we can help you grow that too, because that's what we want to do, and for sure, let's you and I sit and talk about how we can partner up with you and possibly bring some education. We do bottle nights. We do bottle night at Underground once a month, where it's a bring a bottle, share a bottle. We don't charge anything for it. The whole theme of it is to share the experiences of the spirits or wines or what have you, whatever it is that you want to share, and give people the opportunity to try something that they've never tried before, and then pairing the cigars with it. So that's what we need to talk.
Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk offline. No, I'm definitely open. Anything that's going to grow knowledge, help the community, I'm all for it.
So do you prefer to go, and I didn't ask you this, I should ask you this ahead of time. Do you prefer to go by coach, EB, Edwina?
It's the craziest thing is, right, nicknames, right? That's the thing, especially as an athlete. You got this nickname.
Yeah.
So at each stage of my life, right, I've had different careers and been blessed enough to, I think, be excellent at most of them. I've had a different nickname. Right, so I'll share a little secret to your community. As an athlete, it was Winky, right? Winky.
Okay.
That's the nickname. And then coach is coach, right? Everybody's coach. Coach EB. A lot of my teammates call me E. If they didn't call me Winky, so Coach E, Coach EB was kind of the coach in life. And so then a lot of the people that I met when I jumped into cigars knew me as coach. They knew me from coaching at SMU. They knew me from coaching at TCU or coaching at my alma mater, University of Texas. So they knew me as that. So it was coach. And then in the cigar game, the cigar space, because people feel my name is hard to pronounce, Edwina, and I don't want you to butcher my name. So it has become EB. I don't know who started that first. Maybe they grabbed it off of my social media handles, which on Instagram and Twitter are Coach EB.
Mm-hmm.
So EB has kind of been my cigar name, but I answer to them all unless you know me as a hooper or you know me from childhood. Do not call me Wink or I'm not going to answer to you.
Understood. Yeah, I get you on that. Obviously everybody knows me as Graybeard. Professionally, people call me by my first name, Dave. Only my mother calls me David.
Yeah.
Anybody else calls me David, I'm like, oh hell, what did I do wrong?
I'm in trouble. I do like my name though. I mean, I love my name. It's unique. There's not a lot of Edwinas. Was named after my dad, but I don't mind my name. They say the sweetest sound to your ear is your name. It's a catch-22 because if someone's calling your name like your mom or dad, you're in trouble. But if you can say my name correctly, then you can call me Edwina.
Well, Edwina, thank you for everything. Again, you guys make sure to go out to the page, go out to the Facebook page, Twitter page, YouTube. Go check them all out. Follow them. We love you. I see great things coming in for blowing smoke.
We receive great things.
Yes. We receive the victory that's yours, sister. Receive the victory that's yours.
Yeah.
So, real quick for our viewers, next week we have got a special guest on our show that is all around mead. He has a meadery and a winery, and so he's going to be on our show. That's next week. We're coming up into the end of the year, and so expect some great things coming from us from Leaf and Grain next year. As we always say when we close out, explore the pairings. There's something for everyone. Thank you, everybody. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.